Texas Podcast Massacre contains spoilers and adult language. For more horror, visit us at our website at texaspodcastmassacre.com.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
This is Texas Podcast Massacre.
Welcome to another episode of Texas Podcast Massacre, coming to you from Houston, Texas. I'm your host, Mitch, and with me as always are my tag team partners, Lisa.
You either put on those sunglasses or you eat that trash can.
Goddamn, all right. And Nate.
You know, Mitch, you look like your head fell in the cheese dip back in 57.
This is very aggressive for both of you this week. Maybe y'all should take off those sunglasses. You're being very cagey.
Stop ruining Earth, and we'll let you go.
All right. Well, welcome again to Texas Podcast Massacre, where each week we take a look at a different horror movie and debate a horror-related topic with our unsuspecting victim, who is usually someone that we would not call a horror fan. Lisa, you have the esteemed honor of being this week's unsuspecting victim, or the non-horror fan, because this week we're going to be putting on our best pair of sunglasses to review John Carpenter's They Live with our very special guest, one half of the Don, Tony, and Kevin Castle show. Kevin Castle, welcome, man.
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for joining on. So for those of you that listen don't know, the Don, Tony, and Kevin Castle show is a wrestling podcast where they discuss WWE news, really any wrestling news, and they review episodes of Raw and I guess pay-per-views, or I guess whatever they're calling them now that they're on the WWE network. They also have a bunch of other content as part of their Patreon. So on like all sorts of topics. So I think what some of the shows are Breakfast with Blasey, Breakfast Soup with I think Mish from Wrestling Soup, and the Castle Chronicles, which is your show.
Yeah, I have that, and I also actually kind of a little bit similar to this. I do a show called Dark Chronicles with female co-host Lady Trez, and we do just talk about all different subjects, but kind of like darker subjects, so to speak, with movies and TV and going back old school, Twilight Zone, and just sci-fi stuff. But we also get into like life topics and stuff. So it's called Dark Chronicles, and that's on our Patreon as well.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, definitely. I think personally, I've been on y'all's Patreon for a little while. I think the podcast we support y'all as well. I absolutely say well worth it. Definitely check it out. A lot of content, a lot of cool stuff. So as I was listening to y'all's show, I'm a big fan. And when I heard that you were a horror fan, I told the guys we got to get you on. So
oh yeah, no, I'm a huge horror fan. I mean, that's especially like slasher movies would be like my favorite stuff. I have a huge library assortment of stuff dating back to the 70s. I mean, it even started before the original Halloween. I mean, I was into a lot of different movies, mostly like slasher stuff, but I'm into all types of horror. Always have been. Just like consistent wrestling fan, I've been consistent horror fan my whole life.
Very cool. Do you have what's some of your favorites?
Oh, probably the original Hills Have Eyes from 77. I mean, they pretty much remade everything, so I always have to be specific and say the originals. Right. The original Fog, 1980, John Carpenter, who we're going to talk about one of his movies today. I would say Terror Train, Prom Night, The Burning, which is absolutely one of my favorite. Yeah. That's when synth rock really came in. The dude from Yes, Rick Wakeman did the music for that with Tom Savini's debut. Pretty much, I mean, we really put him on the map. Just like I said, anything with a slasher killer, I was down for. And as a young, like preteen and then a teenager, like the Funhouse and stuff, those are the movies that we went to. And took dates to and stuff. It was so a lot of memories, a lot of movies. Saw them all in the theaters, even though you were supposed to be 17. From 11 to 16, I saw most of them because I was underage, but they didn't really care back then. You just got someone in the front line to get you in, and you were in. So I saw all those films. The original Zombie, the Italian version, and Mother's Day. I mean, I can go on and on. I mean, I've seen them all. You know,
that's awesome, man. Yeah, I relate to the theater thing. My brother and sister would always drag me to the movie theater when they had to babysit me. And I think I ended up having to leave, scream early, and call my mom. I was a little too young. I was like, this is terrifying. I'm out of here.
I remember really, if you guys have seen the original Hills Have Eyes, it's a pretty brutal movie.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like 8, 9 years old when I'm seeing that. And it's funny, we went from that to another movie that was a little bit more lighthearted called Food of the Gods, which was a bunch of giant rats eating people. In the 70s, the horror was huge in the mid 70s. You had like Bigfoot was really big back then. So you had like Sasquatch movie. You go to the cinema, it was horror movies in the complex. There was like most of the movies were horror movies. And maybe you had one Disney movie, but there was always a good horror movie to see in the mid to late 70s.
Now, have you seen any of the more current movies like what we did Hereditary recently? There's been
I want to see that one. I was talking to Trez about that. I think she saw it. We might talk about that next week. I didn't get a chance. I don't get a chance to go to the movies very often. I'm usually working shows. I'd like to go to the movies more often. I mean, if you want me to be 100% truthful, the last movie I went to movie theaters, this is going to really, I was My Cousin Vinny in 1992. I'm not even kidding.
It's a good one.
I mean, it's a good movie. Yeah, it's a solid one.
It was a date, and I'm still friends with that girl to this day, and we talk about it all the time. And I always say I always remember you because you're the last person I went to the movies with. But yeah, that was 1992, and that was the last time, May 92. It's the last time I was in a movie theater seeing a movie. Everything has been seen in pirate fashion in the 90s, and the club is, we always had people who got stuff for us on the down low on VHS, and then of course, you can get it on disc and then Blu-ray. So I would get to see it in another form of fashion, but not really in a movie theater. As a matter of fact, I was just talking to my friend at work today, and we were talking about possibly going to the movies. I had no idea how much a movie costs now. I don't even know. You could tell me $147.50. I'd be like, oh, okay.
That's
I have no idea.
Not far off when you hit the concession
just the popcorn.
stand.
That's just the popcorn.
Is that just the popcorn?
Yeah.
Well, you will be happy to know that we go see new movies in the theater and then do episodes on them. And people are bringing their kids. They're not waiting for them to get old enough. There's like 5-year-olds seeing like A Quiet Place and Saw movies and everything. It's crazy.
Yeah, man. Well, so if you're ready to get into it, I do have a debate. Nay, I have a game I'd like to play.
Time to play the game. Time to play the game.
No one can see this, but Mitch's arms are just raised.
Look, my brother is huge. My brother's a huge
fashion.
Triple H fan. I mean, nothing makes my brother gets so excited when the game shows up.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
He just loves. I think he just loves the intro. He's just he's not a very picky wrestling fan. So yeah. So my game for y'all today, this is the main character is played by Roddy Piper. Who is one of my brother and sister's favorite wrestlers. Like horror, my brother and sister got me into wrestling as well.
Okay.
And so my question today, though, I thought it'd be interesting because we have a lot of instances of wrestlers going into Hollywood. What if we had a horror movie character in the wrestling ring? What would be your dream tag team? And so I'd say we'll do one that's like a more modern, like someone who's wrestling today, and then kind of like an all-star legends, like Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan era. Earlier or whatever. Lisa, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so background on this. For those listening, if you couldn't tell, Mitch is a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
And has been for a long time.
Everyone in our studio is sitting on some sort of floor level.
Oh, God, I am. Sitting on a Survivor Series seat
or
right
Royal
now.
Rumble. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, whatever.
So we've watched a good bit of wrestling over the years, and I would say somehow I always end up being the unsuspecting victim in everything you do.
You are both not a horror fan nor a wrestling fan, and yet you're watching it all. So thank you.
Right.
Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
It's like battered wife syndrome or something happening here.
Broken chair syndrome, maybe.
Yeah, really.
More contextual, Nate. Jesus, no.
So what you're saying, Lisa, is that like me, your knowledge of wrestling is not. Well, you probably know more than I do.
The thing is, I probably do, at
Yeah.
least about this era, because I've been to several Raw. I don't think have we been to a pay-per-view together?
We have not been to a pay-per-view.
But I've been to Raw and been to SmackDown.
Yeah.
So
wow.
Yeah, I've seen some wrestlers. I don't know why. Every time we do a game kind of like this, I always, for some reason, pick Leprechaun.
You are obsessed with Leprechaun.
I just like him.
You're terrified of Chucky, but you love Leprechaun.
I think it's more I like Warwick Davis than I like Leprechaun.
She's imagining Willow every time she's talking about Leprechaun. That's the issue here.
Well, as one does, Nate. As one does. Okay, so Leprechaun. And it was a big I couldn't decide whether to go now they're all going out of my head. Couldn't decide whether to go with Finn Balor, Becky Lynch, or whom am I missing? Sheamus. And so after,
hold on. What nationality is Sheamus supposed to be?
I'm
just kidding.
Okay.
Just kidding.
I was like, you don't know that, Nate.
Yeah.
So I think in the end decided to go with Finn Balor, but his demon persona.
Okay, so you're going with the actual Balor. Demon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Part of the reason I have to say I want to do this is because I truly enjoy Finn Balor's entrance when he's on the top rung and he's doing his arm flinging. That's why Daniel Bryan was my favorite. That's why I love him.
Well,
if it's got something with your arms going, I'm a fan.
Yeah, you were down for the last Lucha tag team where they were.
Lucha. Yeah, that was fantastic.
I love that you just did it.
Yeah,
live. We need to get on a video podcast.
Yeah, really. Our podcast listeners are missing a lot of arm movements right now.
All right, so what's the tag team name?
Well, I was gonna say so the reason that I did is because I would love to see Leprechaun also get on the top rung with Finn Balor and do the arms. That would be fantastic.
Sure.
The tag team name is...
Hold on. Could the people in like the top deck of the stadium tell that his arms are moving because he's so small?
Oh, jeez.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, because they have big screens. So
okay, there's a zoom in. Got it. I'm just checking for the fans.
The tag team name would be Curse of the Irish. And because...
Curse O the Irish for
the Irish,
non-Irish folk.
And because Leprechaun always has to talk in riddles or puns or what have you.
Some would say limericks.
I feel like they would need to get themselves into a tables, ladders, and chairs match because there's so much I can do there. And like one of his rhymes could be, "It's not a fable. I'll slam you through that table."
God damn, that is.
I'm just saying.
So I'm
they're definitely the tag team champs. I'll
add in some of my Mark talk. So I would pitch as well that instead of the coup de grace, Leprechaun gets on. So the coup de grace, Nate, I can tell you're looking at me all weird.
Yeah, what?
That's Finn Balor's finishing move. He gets on top rope and he jumps and he lands like feet down on the opponent's chest.
Sure.
But in this case, you have the Leprechaun do it with the pogo stick, like from the first movie.
Yes.
Boom, done.
Okay.
Excellent. Well done. Good entry.
Thank you.
I'll follow up with that because that's a tough one, and mine aren't great, admittedly. So mine, there's a character, Bailey. She's what we call a baby face. She hugs everyone. I just went the simple route. What else hugs people, Nate?
What else hugs?
The face huggers from Alien.
Sure.
Boom. It's the hug squad. Done.
Hug squad.
That's all they have to do. They just hug you the whole time. She gets the body. The thing goes up top. Done.
Okay. The hug squad. Hugging.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, and I can just see because she's got that really cute T-shirt with her cartooning. It says "I'm a hugger." I can just see them putting a face hugger on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Just
great.
Whoever did the New Day shirts just did the same. I mean, like it's no worse than like the Bludgeon Brothers. It's as good of a name as that.
Okay. Wow.
Kevin, man, you want to jump in on what would your modern day tag team be?
Well, I've thought of this before, and actually, could I use a guy who was probably released a few years ago?
Sure. We're not too strict on rules around here.
Okay, I don't know if he wrestles today, but he makes a lot of appearances, and he was actually based on a horror character, and there was always a character I thought he was kind of based on, even though some people shot that down. They're like, yeah, I guess, but not really. But I was going to say, of course, the Candyman, the horror movie, with the Boogeyman, because I always saw some similarities between them, even though the Candyman had insects and the Boogeyman had worms. But I always thought there was like a similarity between the characters. As soon as I saw him, I'm like, oh, it's when he would do, his little rhymes and stuff. I'm like, oh, it's a takeoff on Candyman. Some people saw it that way, but some people didn't. But I always thought that would be an interesting team up. The promos would be classic.
Yeah.
I don't know what you would call the team, like Candy Boogie, but you'd probably come up with something better than that. But yeah, the Candyman and the Boogeyman, that would be kind of a sick tag team, actually.
So for me, I don't know wrestling that much. Who is the Boogeyman? Can you describe the Boogeyman a little bit?
Oh, the Boogeyman was around a while ago. I mean, maybe 7-8 years ago, but he still makes appearances for the WWE. He's kind of a fantasy, like almost like a New Orleans evil character, a little bit like, I don't know if you guys remember Papa Shango back in the day. Kind of a voodoo kind of character, almost like a out of your nightmares type of character. I mean, you can probably just Google him now. You'll see he ate worms. He stuffed worms in his opponent's mouths. He was released a couple of times, but they brought him back. The lights go out. He crawls to the ring through the smoke. It's a pretty sick character, and he goes around. Awesome. He makes appearances at all horror conventions and Comic Cons as the Boogeyman. He's a pretty known guy on social media too. So he lives his gimmick pretty much. He's in tremendous shape. He's Diesel. He's an older guy, but like I said, he's got a sick voice, just like Tony Todd had as the Candyman. So it would be an interesting matchup. I think, like I said, if you don't know a lot about him, you can Google him later and match him up and say, yeah, there is a lot of similarities there.
Oh, I like that the Boogeyman has the worms and Candyman has the bees. We got
exactly.
insects.
Like you have the
cover.
insects and the bees.
That's a good pairing. That's
the worms and the bees. You explain it to him. That's
Jesus.
Get some sort of insect animal theme or something.
Yeah, that's cool.
I like it. All right, Nate, you've been thrilled. I want to make sure this is out there. You came in to the studio today already saying you have the best tag team.
I'm excited.
I've never seen you more excited for an episode, so I'm ready.
Sure,
hit me with it.
There are so many tag teams that hit the cutting room floor that I had in my head. Okay, so my current one, I think my old one is better, but my current one is Ronda Rousey. I know that she's a wrestler. I know very few wrestlers. So I know that she became a wrestler recently.
She's a wrestler of like a few months ago.
Well, she's had 2 matches, but
I know her from MMA, so
good.
I know that. So I have Ronda Rousey and Samara for the tag team duo Ring Around the Rousey.
A ring around. I love it. Yeah. I'm already a fan. Push us to the moon. Yep. What? Anything else you've worked out?
I worked out a bunch. Okay, so when they're doing their promotional things, their line like to go out is "Do not adjust your television set." For sure, with a nice ring reference there.
Got it.
The finishing move that this group would have. I had a couple. One is called, there's like some sort of suplex and you call it throwing them down the wishing well. And there's also one called the glue factory because
wow.
in the ring, if no one remembers, a lot of horses die. So you combine those, you're in pretty good shape.
I'm speechless. I'm truly, for the first time in this podcast, I am speechless, Nate. Well done.
You're welcome.
Well done. All right, Lisa. So your Legends team, if you will.
Yeah. So one of my more favorite old school wrestlers is definitely Rey Mysterio. So I was like racking my brain. I had to come up with something to include him, and it finally hit me. The factory owner from Halloween 3. Because he's definitely going to get in on that mask production. But here's the thing. He's not his tag team. Hold on. No, hold on.
Okay.
He's not his tag team partner, though. He's his manager.
Okay. That makes more sense.
He's
that
his
makes
manager.
more sense.
We'll allow it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he's definitely going to come in. He's going to introduce him. He's going to push selling those masks. And he's definitely going to interfere in the match in some way. So in my mind, he interferes towards the end by forcing one of his masks onto the opponent. Whether or not he makes it in time to actually have their head dissolve and the bugs come out or whatever remains to be seen. But I would think he'd be a very good manager.
Wow.
So
Connell Cochran.
Yeah.
And Rey Mysterio teaming up.
Yeah.
This is an unlikely pair.
If they need a name, they can be the Santa Mira Muchachos.
Ooh.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Wow, that's pretty solid.
Santa Mira being the name of
the town.
The unlikely name of an Irish factory owner's town in Halloween
again, 3. Halloween 3 is great.
The gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, God, isn't it? Isn't it? All right. Man, okay, I'm gonna change mine. I'll go with my original one. I'm not thrilled with it anymore. It was Jimmy, Superfly Snuka, and The Fly. Really went but I did not spend a lot of time.
They're
on
both
this.
fly.
They're both, yeah.
You need a combination.
Well, the better one I came up with was at least The Shield, but that goes back to the modern. But it was The Shield, but instead of Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins, you'd have Terminator, Predator, and Blade, which I thought would be pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's way better than what.
Yeah, way better. I
don't know what to tell you, Mitch. That was a way better idea.
I'm just gonna here.
That's
how I did in this game this week. All right, Nate.
All right. Well, so for my old tag team, I'm going to also use the Leprechaun, but he fits better in the old one because he's hundreds of years old. So I'm just gonna say that.
We'll see.
It works better.
That works. Sorry.
So I have the Leprechaun and Shawn Michaels, renamed Shawn Sean Mac Michaels. They formed the tag team, the Dirty Limericks. And I have a couple different finishing moves for them. One is called the Buddha Gold, where he kicks him in the face with the sweet chin music. And I have the other one called the End of the Rainbow, where he also kicks him. The best part about
they're both a super kick. You just called them two different
exactly.
things.
Yeah, exactly. No, one is
or sweet chin music.
No. So the End of the Rainbow is when the Leprechaun does it, which is even more hilarious.
Does he jump off?
Yes, he floats. Yeah.
So you're gonna rename him Shawn McMichaels.
Shawn McMichaels, Mac Michaels, if you want to get the technical term. The best part about it would be, the stadium is quiet, and then all of a sudden you hear random Irish flute music, and the Leprechaun is going to come from somewhere. Thing is, Leprechaun can basically teleport. So he can just show up randomly behind people, causing crazy hijinks, knocking out refs, grabbing stuff from the crowd. He'd be a real troublemaker.
Now, is this Warwick Davis Leprechaun, or is it not
the new one. It is the old Leprechaun.
Hornswoggle was in fact a WWE wrestler.
Really?
Yes.
I did not know this.
Yes. I don't remember the storyline outside of, I think at some point he was Vince McMahon's illegitimate leprechaun's son or something. Something. We'll go with that.
Illegitimate leprechaun son.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Sure. A lot of illegitimate children in WWE.
That makes sense.
Anyway. Okay. That's good. All right, Kevin, what you got, man?
Well, of course, I'm going to go with the leprechaun.
Sure. No, what you got?
He would be great in the ring. I'm sorry. His promos,
we
everything.
are pro Leprechaun on the.
Yeah, what is the thing about Leprechaun, by the way?
We just
we don't know. It's just it's somehow become a recurring thing.
I saw a rough copy of that in 1993 while I was in movies. We bought it off the street like a pirate, the tape of it while I was out. We watched it in my friend's basement apartment. I remember that like the day is long because everyone was getting drunk and high. I'm straight edge. I don't do that. But I just remember everybody was laughing hysterical at that whole movie. And then, of course, the main girl in it went on to be a big superstar. Jennifer Aniston was in that when she was nobody, But we were all saying, "Oh, she looks pretty good. Maybe she'll be something." And like a year later, she was on Friends. But yeah, I just remember seeing that on a pirate VHS tape when it was out in theaters. We just got it, we bought it, and we watched it. And I know there was like 57 Leprechauns since then, but I haven't seen any of the so.
Yeah, you haven't missed a whole lot of quality movies.
Yeah, I think what it is everyone has their favorite like terrible movie. Like, it's a movie that you love, but everyone it's terrible. Leprechaun's that for me. I am hard pressed to find a movie series that has a sequel, which in itself is so good, it has its own sequel outside of the other set of sequels. So this is when he goes to the hood and then back to the hood.
Was he in space too?
He was in space, and we did that episode.
Yeah, previous episode, and
okay, there you go.
The way you described everyone drinking and laughing at the movie was exactly how our episode went, because that's the only legitimate
way you can watch and enjoy. But yeah,
exactly.
All right, so your tag team.
I would say, sometimes, like I said, I've matched up some of these people in the past with horror characters or wrestling characters that you would like to see, like kind of a envision, and that would be like Michael Myers with the Undertaker.
Ooh, that's solid.
Well, that'd be good.
Yeah, like the original, and which Michael Myers. It's always funny when people who's the best Michael Myers, because it's basically the same outfit when you really think about it. Right. A little bit of a different take on the mask. There wasn't. Only in Rob Zombie's remake was there Tyler Mane, a giant guy, 7 foot, legit playing him. Everybody else was pretty much the same normal size.
Yeah.
But I would probably even say and go that way. Let the 7-footer from Rob Zombie's version with the Undertakers. Then you got 2 7-foot guys. That would be a pretty sick team up.
I can imagine those 2 guys trying to catch the leprechaun would be pretty entertaining.
That would be good. That would be a great matchup.
That would be a WrestleMania.
Yeah.
I don't know which leprechaun team from y'all's would go against
who knows?
the Undertaker and Michael Myers, but that's clearly, I think, the best. Well done, everyone. All right. Well, with that said, I think you're all winners. I think my teams are the stinkers, so we'll go with that. Are y'all ready to get into this movie review?
Sure. Let's do it.
Sweet. All right. So this week's movie of the week is They Live.
What do these things want, and why are they here?
You still don't get it, do you, boy?
They have recruited the rich and the powerful.
They're running the whole show.
Wake up! They're all about you, all around you. Blinded us to the truth.
Take a look.
They are safe as long as they are not discovered.
I don't know what they are or where they came from, but we gotta stop them.
Stay away from me. Put these on. They have us. Look at them. They're everywhere. Our owners.
We have no other choice.
I don't like this one bit. Leave it alone, man. It ain't none of my business. Ain't none of yours.
We have been lulled into a trance.
Listen to what I'm saying to you. We're in trouble. The whole world's in trouble.
Control us.
You're sending some kind of signals out of TV sets.
I've got one that can see.
Mama don't like tattletale.
Now we start spilling some blood.
Let's go!
Push a button.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Did we just get a dialogue for the whole movie?
Apparently.
God bless the late 80s.
Yeah, that is
right.
I thought we were going to watch the whole movie.
Yeah, exactly.
We're just gonna riff it, just Mr. Science Theater style. All right, so Lisa, as our resident non-horror fan, how would you describe this movie? What would you tell someone this movie is about?
You know that song, I Wear My Sunglasses at Night?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's this movie.
That's it. Just
that's it.
All
right. There. No,
that should have been part of this movie soundtrack.
Wouldn't that have been great?
That would have been pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that should have been when the credits roll. Boom.
A wrestler wannabe actor.
God,
He actually did a pretty good job.
Dang.
I was expecting much worse. Finds a pair of sunglasses and sees the world for what it really is, for better or worse.
All right,
I'm gonna go with worse.
That got dark. I don't know.
That's why when you wear sunglasses, Mitch.
Oh.
Come on.
All right, so Nate, so you got any facts?
Yeah,
Jesus,
sure.
I'm just.
So this movie came
rolling
out,
over that one.
Yeah, this movie came out 30 years ago. It is a 7.3 on IMDb, which is pretty solid for this type of movie. I think this is basically a cult classic. I don't think anyone will disagree with that. So Kevin, you've seen this movie numerous times, it sounds like.
I saw it in the theaters in 1987.
Nice.
Yeah, I saw it in the theaters, and reminds me of an old 80s song. I want that 90 minutes of my life back. I was listening to Lisa say some. I was going to say far more disparaging things about Roddy.
Oh,
we'll get there. Don't you worry.
I'm looking forward to that. So this is 94 minutes. So 4 more minutes you should have gotten back.
Yeah, well, you know, the synth music or whatever they have is always, Carpenter always has pretty good music scores, so I can deal with that. But yeah, I saw it in the theaters. I can't remember what season it was, but I remember it was in 87. And yeah, I mean, I went because honestly, 2 things: John Carpenter, Roddy Piper. Matter of fact, I declared that John Carpenter's decline at that point in 87. I thought that was the beginning of a downslide for him.
To be honest, you are exactly right.
I think we're all just forgetting Vampires came out like 10 years later. So let's hold down on
I forgot about it. I forgot about it in the same way that you try to like save yourself from traumatic experiences. All right. So the budget for this movie was $3 million, and in the box office, it made 13. So it wasn't like a flop by any means, but I think they wanted it to do better. John Carpenter's work up until then had been Assault on Precinct 13, Halloween, The Fog, Escape from New York, The Thing, Christine, Starman, Big Trouble in Little China, Prince of Darkness, then this movie.
Love them all except for They Live.
Exactly. And when this movie happened, the bottom drops out. It drops out pretty hard, to be honest.
It did.
So he's not involved in the Halloween movie coming out this year, but he is doing the music for it. So maybe this is playing on his strengths now. Is more of a musician.
Well,
than
God
a
willing, he'll come up
director.
with more than the one bass line that features prominently throughout this entire film.
Yeah, the beginning, the music in the beginning of this movie is rough, but it gets much better.
Yeah. Fair.
So the actor, the main actor in this movie, whose name is never mentioned, but in the credits he's Nada or Nada for Lisa. If I pronounce it like Mitch, you'll get mad at me. Is Roddy Piper. So I didn't realize that Roddy Piper was from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. And he was in a movie that I had forgotten about, much in the same way that I forgot about the vampires movie, called Hell Comes to Frogtown.
Saw that too. Yeah.
That is quite a movie. Actually, that would be a great double feature. They Live and Hell Comes to Frogtown. He's Nada in this movie, and in Hell Comes to Frogtown, he plays a character called Sam Hell. And it came out in the same year.
Yeah,
So it's absolutely crazy. The reason he got hired to do this movie is because John Carpenter saw him at WrestleMania 3. And he's like, I like that guy. Like, get him in my big budget movie. And then he did. I mean, crazy. This movie's based on a short story called 8 o'clock in the Morning by Ray Nelson. And the main character there was called George Nada. So that's where he got the name. The other main actor in this movie is Keith David, who was in The Thing with John Carpenter. So he's like, all right, I'm gonna write something for him. He's the president from Rick and Morty, for people who watch Rick and Morty.
Yeah, he's on Community and all that. That's how I remembered him. But
Exactly,
This is
yeah.
Frank. That's his character in the movie, right?
Yep. Yeah. Frank. Yeah. He's been in tons of stuff. He was in.
The
He was
voodoo guy in
also
Princess
in
and
the
the
first
Frog.
Barbershop. He was the pimp in Barbershop.
Yes,
Yep.
that's a great movie.
Yeah, Barbershop. I mean, he was in Roadhouse, Clockers, Dead Presidents. He's been a character actor everywhere. He's usually fantastic.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to mention is that one of the cool things in this movie is when he puts the glasses on, all of the advertisements change. And basically, one of the things is called Obey, and that's where Shepard Fairey got the Andre the Giant Obey famous graphic that he made, and that's also the guy who went on to do the Obama Hope thing. Right?
Yeah.
So super famous, totally got its start from that. Duke Nukem obviously took a lot of his, for all those who remember Duke Nukem 20 plus years ago, stole a couple of lines from this movie actually also.
Yeah.
So definitely a little bit of influence in pop culture.
Definitely.
And one of the things I wanted to point out is that I guess sometime not that long ago, Nazis, this is random, Nazis
Where are you
thought that, yeah, I know. I'm going an interesting way.
Suddenly Nazis.
Nazis.
No, this is interesting.
So
You already know
Nazis,
this? Okay.
Yeah.
Nazis were like, oh, we know what John Carpenter was all about. This isn't about the over commercialism or not thinking for yourself critically. It's about the aliens are the Jews. So John Carpenter had to go publicly state, no, it is not the Jews. That is not what I was doing at all. You guys are the worst.
Yeah.
So
I never heard that actually.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy. But John Carpenter is pretty active on social media and everything. So yeah, he went out and definitely.
When people were saying that his extinction of the people was like something of extinction of Jewish people.
No,
he
the
was saying-
Nazis were saying that basically the
aliens were the Jews running
Jewish,
everything.
Yeah, rich
okay.
Jews
I guess because
running
this takes
everything.
place in L.A. and
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And John
I was
Carpenter's
thinking the
like-
reverse, like they were trying to extinguish humans.
Yeah.
I thought it was like a reversal kind of thing.
No, John Carpenter's like, fuck you. No.
Yeah, I never heard that, and I thought I heard everything about them.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
The other crazy thing, Nate, maybe you read it or not, is that I guess John Carpenter was trying to get Roddy Piper to talk about Reaganism on the press tour. And he goes, yeah, I'm a Canadian citizen, not American, so I'm not going to talk about American politics.
That's true. Yeah.
He's like, I'm
think I
staying
might
out of
have
that
heard
one.
Yeah, I mean, this movie definitely huge overtones of, anti-commercialism and like, oh yeah, everything's great. It's like, is it?
Although I'll have to say, when it changes and you start seeing all the like, slogans like obey and listen and comply, there's one that just says stay asleep. And as a mother of an infant, I was like, that sounds good, actually. I don't know why we're complaining about that.
They already got you. They already got you.
That sounds fine.
One of them is actually have babies.
It was get married and reproduce.
Reproduce, not have babies.
It was interesting that they definitely were like, yeah, get married first, though. Definitely.
Really? Yeah. It said that?
Yeah, it says get married and reproduce. Yeah, on the billboards.
I remember on one of the billboards it said get your money back.
I think that was the billboard outside.
That was a guy with a protest sign.
Yeah. When people put on the glasses, everyone sees something different.
Yes, that's right. So I mean, overall thoughts about this movie. So, at least two of y'all are not thrilled with it. Nate, what did you think?
So I'd never seen this before, which is kind of shocking for me because I've seen a lot of deep cuts. I thought it was. I liked the overarching like themes of the movie.
Yeah,
more than I liked the movie.
Okay,
like the actual like acting in the movie and the actual execution. But I love the ideas. I love when he puts on the glasses and it goes black and white and you see the aliens. I love that part.
Yeah,
for sure. I love the overall kind of the world building that occurs.
Okay.
There's some just random, we'll get into this a little bit more, but there's some random futuristic technology that's pretty hilarious. It actually ages, some of it ages terribly and some of it ages like pretty well, actually.
Like the CGI drone.
The CGI drone is not great, but there was like weird, like Apple Watch teleporters that were pretty cool in there. I kind of enjoyed it. I'm not going to lie. It's one of those ones that's like, yeah, I know this is not the best, but it's kind of like almost a guilty pleasure kind of movie.
Sure. So let's talk about the opening of this. Like the first opening, really, I'd say the first 30 minutes, really everything leading up to when he gets the glasses, right? So we see Roddy Piper walking the tracks, just trying to get a job.
His mullet has its own mullet. It's like it's
back in an age where mullets were king, and that's how you knew who to root for. I don't know. So we meet a lot of folks. We meet Frank in this
street preacher.
We meet the street preacher in this, and I guess the weird church organization running the. What were some of the things that stood out for y'all in kind of this first like opening? Because most of it's just world setting type stuff. Anything that stood out to you about any of that?
I feel like they could have tightened it up. It was kind of just like him randomly going to try and find a job.
It was almost like Rambo. Like he's just some wanderer. He rolls into a random town trying to find work. Gets hassled by the cops.
Yeah, that's not a bad comparison.
Yeah, that's like surprise. Yeah, I just no. Wow.
They.
So what did you think about the world building, Kevin, in this movie? Did it obviously didn't grab you, but
I was impressed. Piper being ahead of the grunge era, wearing a flannel in 1988.
Oh yeah,
trendsetter.
A few years later, we were all rocking those. To me, the thing that stands out the most about that movie is the infamous, very long fight scene between him and Keith David. That was when they had that fist fight in the alleyway. He was trying to force the glasses on him. I don't know how long that was, but I believe it's even historically one of the biggest individual fight scenes in a movie, I think.
So I read
film, at least.
It's just under 6 minutes long.
Yeah.
It was originally supposed to only be like a minute, but then John Carpenter loved the footage so much, he was like, yeah, I'm not going to cut it. And apparently they didn't hold back any punches. They said, we'll punch each other. The only time we'll hold back is if it's to the face or the groin. Everything else was real.
That's great.
So it goes on. It is so funny because you keep thinking it's going to end and then just keeps going.
That's what really stood out to me. I mean, for the most part, and Piper's acting. I mean, we might as well just put it out there right now. It was pretty rank. I mean, for a guy who, let's be back then, there were no writers in WWE. They freelanced everything in wrestling. I know that for a fact. There were no writers back then. Everybody, Piper's Pit, he did it himself. He freelanced most of the stuff he said, most of the insults and jabs he took at his opponents came off the top of his head. So when people say he was acting all those years in wrestling, why was he so terrible in that movie? Like because it was a different type of thing. I think ad-libbing is completely different than learning a script.
Yeah.
You know,
it's
like being a
that
stand-up comedian, and some can't translate. Like Roseanne Barr was easily able to make the TV transition. She just had the chops. But a guy like, say, Sam Kinison, who's a famous stand-up comedian back in the day, he was terrible when they put him in an acting role. He couldn't do it. That's why there's certain people who can't. You know, there's a difference with the audiences with how you relate to them. And I think everyone always said, how is a wrestler not a better actor? Like Hulk Hogan and stuff. It's completely different. I think it's completely different. Now, The Rock is an exception to the rule. He would probably be the only one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Well, and I think there's part of it. I mean, you said they're ad-libbing. I think once you're ad-libbing, you can kind of make it your own. Him reading off a script, he probably just couldn't give it as much passion as he did in the ring.
The most famous line in the movie was ad-libbed by Roddy Piper.
It was, and that's what I was going to say. It's so sad that
that's
he did, because I guess I was reading, he was thinking about using that in a promo. And instead use it in the movie, but it's just delivered. They
should
so
just let him go Nick
lame.
Cage. We're just gonna film, and whatever we get from you is what's going in the movie.
And it sounds like a wrestling promo too. I mean, when you hear it to this day, it sounds like something Dusty Rhodes would have said, or Ric Flair even would have said something like that. You know, so it is very wrestling promo-ish.
It's a little wordy though. I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
So great.
He was workshopping.
You can tighten that up a little. It was ad-lib, which is pretty solid, but I think Roddy Piper's best acting is like the physical work he does in this movie.
Right.
Yep.
Other than the gun holding. He's never held a gun in his life. It's pretty obvious.
So let's talk about this. Has anyone in this film seen a gun in their life? Because Piper is holding an assault rifle one-handed at one point, shooting sideways.
Like, I think his eyes are closed and he's shooting. I don't even know what's
happening. They're standing around their little AA meeting at one point, and we'll kind of get into.
You mean Aliens Anonymous?
That's the exact one. And they're sitting there like holding the trigger, like ready to go. Yeah. I don't know. Some of the gun scenes were just fantastic.
Yeah, I mean the best scenes for him is he falls out of a house. That was good acting by him, I think. I believe that he fell, so that was good. Mm-hmm. He fights somebody, I believe that. And he's running around a television station. I mean, these are the most believable parts of his entire. And he wore flannel well. I guess Kevin said it pretty well too. So those are the spot on parts.
His was tucked in though. We never wore flannel tucked in.
All right.
Yeah.
That's all.
He's like, I'm a drifter, but I'm classy. Okay, for sure.
Exactly.
For today's professional drifter. Yeah.
Yeah, looking back at it, it's like, that was a pretty nice outfit for a drifter.
Oh.
And let's get into this. There's a whole drifter camp.
Yeah.
In the movie that, you know, they're kind of just, they're making it work, you know, the economy's bad for them. They're getting, temporary construction jobs. And then eventually the cops with the aliens in tow bulldozed their entire place. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, what do you think about that scene, Mish?
Yeah, I thought it was intense that it's like, here's the cops. First the cars come, and then like the footmen all are coming down, and then bulldozers. They're just bringing.
Yeah, they don't mess around. Yeah.
It was over and above what they needed, I think. But man, they took down that shantytown quick.
They did. Although then everyone just stayed. So I'm not sure what it actually did in the long run. But yeah. Let's talk about when he gets the glasses. So this is really the turning point of the movie where it gets more interesting.
You mean when Piper is no longer asleep, but he is in fact woken? I've been ready for that drop. I'm so happy we got to put that in there. Yes. Yeah, so he's woken now.
Roddy gets woke. Roddy gets woke.
So I want to preface this by saying, so in previous episodes, usually I say this for what I would do differently. And I say, you know, a lot of these characters in these horror movies, they act like they live in a world that does not have horror movies. So they take forever to
figure it out.
And to realize, oh, you know, maybe we are actually haunted. Maybe it is a demon possession. Maybe there is a serial killer after me. Piper is the other extreme. He sees one thing with the aliens, and he's just like, let's just start shooting everyone up now. It's time. It gets go time. Like,
yeah, he goes from like, I just want to lay low and have a construction job too. I'm shooting everyone in the street very fast.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. What are some of the lines he started saying when he's just like right in like the stores talking shit to these aliens?
He basically does like the half baked. He's like, you're cool. Fuck you. You're cool. I'm out. In a grocery store, he's like, oh, lady, you're awesome. this one's real fucking ugly. Like he is just.
Yeah, it was again, his delivery was so bizarre.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I mean, I can honestly say any of the four of us probably could have did a better acting job than him. I mean, really, I think it was that. I think anyone could have did a better acting job than him, but of course he's Roddy Piper. If he was a regular actor, or if he was auditioning for that, he would have never got it. If Carpenter clearly handpicked him. In other words, he wasn't like there was Harrison Ford up for this and Tom Cruise, and I mean Piper was juiced in, so to speak. So that's really the only reason he got it. And I think also Carpenter was thinking again on the downslide of his career a little bit. He was getting older. He needed some pop culture kind of thing, marquee name. Hulk Hogan would have been too ridiculous for that film role. He needed somebody a little bit more relatable to the common man, who, a lot of people thought Piper was a good looking guy. So they put him in that role, but really he just didn't have the chops for it. And I'm surprised during Rough Cuts that Carpenter didn't recast. I mean, I really mean that. I sincerely mean that.
Yeah. I mean, like in terms of like they think he's good looking part. I mean, they make this guy shirtless numerous times in this movie. Like they're like, oh yeah,
I know girls I hung around with back then who thought Piper was like a hot guy. Like I don't know, like to each their own. But there were girls like when I went to the movies, a couple of girls that I went with thought he was like a good looking guy. So maybe like Carpenter said, I can maybe make this guy like a marquee star. I just never saw that for Piper. I didn't really. He wasn't that role in wrestling, so I didn't think that was going to trend. Because, you look at The Rock, whether you're a man or not, you look at that man and you say, he's like Elvis. Like, it's a rarity type of guy who has such charisma that other guys have to cave in and say, yeah, that guy's got it. I'm not going to be a jealous hater. That's a good-looking guy. That's a guy with charisma. Mm-hmm. I can't deny it. And that's, there's very rare guys like that. The Rock is like that. Elvis was like that. John Lennon. There's just specific people who just, they just command your attention. And I think they thought Piper was going to be a big star. And because he could do a great Piper's Pit did not mean that he was going to be a cinema star. I thought that when I was 17 years old, I kind of saw that in him. I'm like, he's not going to be a movie star. He's not like that. So it didn't surprise me when he came back to wrestling in the late 80s.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just going to say, as the only female on this podcast, I did appreciate this shirtless.
You did? Oh, all right. There we go.
There you go.
Because I was like, dang, he's
John Carpenter is smarter than all of us.
So where in his wrestling career did this movie fit? Was it towards the end, the middle, the beginning?
It was in the middle, I would say.
Right in the heart of it, really. When you think about it, he was a big solo star by WrestleMania 3. He was they turned him good guy at that point, and then he just took a powder from wrestling for about a year and a half, and then came back a year or two later at WrestleMania to do a gimmick with Morton Downey and Brother Love. That was his comeback, and then he came back for a while, won the Intercontinental title, feuded with Bret Hart for a little while, left and came back again because he kept trying TV shows and movies.
Oh,
okay. It just didn't work. He was exposed, I think. He was exposed.
Yeah. So how tall is this guy? I couldn't.
I think 6'1".
Okay, 6'1". Okay, I wasn't sure how he seemed like he was small, but maybe everyone was like, maybe Keith David is this giant or something.
I think Keith David is pretty.
Is he giant?
Tall,
okay.
Yeah.
The one thing that I never thought I'd hear in this podcast is the comparison of Roddy Piper and John Lennon. So I appreciate that.
No, I'm just saying, like,
no, man, he's not. He doesn't have that.
People really thought Piper had something special beyond wrestling. Like, this guy's going to be the break. Because Hogan, let's be honest, come on, he was already in his 30s, a balding guy with hair. I mean, that was never a good look. You know what I mean? Like, George Costanza blonde hair version. So it's like that look is not. I get why you always wore the bandanas and stuff, but Hogan always looked older. Hogan wasn't for the ladies. Hogan was for the guys and the kids. And if girls liked him too, that was fine. But he had enough fanfare from the boys that really didn't matter. But I think that they were looking for a guy who can appeal to cross section. Because wrestling never really had that. I mean, even Ric Flair. I mean, you could talk about being a ladies' man, but I don't know any girl who was swooning when Ric Flair came on TV. I mean, I hung around with a lot of female wrestling fans, and none of them ever thought he was hot. No. So I don't know what maybe some people did, but he was for older women, I think. But young teenage girls, no one had a Ric Flair poster on their wall.
Yeah. Lisa's vigorously shaking her head. No one can see this,
but she's watching 30 for 30. She's not. She was not having that. I do want to say. So I want to get into the fight for just a second. We started talking about that. Let me just ask you all, Nate, I'll start with you. Yeah. If you were trying to convince me to wear a pair of sunglasses, because his character tries twice to get the lady to wear them at one point, and Frank. and no one is wearing these sunglasses. And it's not an unreasonable ask. Hey, put these on for a second.
Again, John Lennon could have got people to wear these sunglasses.
He could have.
Definitely. That's
he could have. Yeah,
for sure. But yeah, he's terrible at talking about things that are occurring in real time. Maybe after like everything's like calmed down, he's kind of explaining things in the movie. But while things are happening, he can say one-liners and he can like do some physical activity. He cannot describe the events that are happening in real time. It's impossible for his character. I'm not sure. Maybe there was some sort of brain construction injury in his earlier jobs that he had in this movie universe. I don't know. But I mean, the fight that I liked the most wasn't with Keith David, although that was memorable. Before that, he goes on a rampage murdering cops, people in banks, whatever.
All the aliens. Yeah.
He throws a nice clothesline. I'll admit there are some wrestling moves in this that I did notice. He clotheslined a cop into just basically oblivion, into just death. That was interesting. He starts shooting cops almost instantly. Some people there's some suplexes in there with Keith David. He's trying like a sleeper hole at some point. I mean, he's making use of the wrestling moves, and that was probably some of the most effective stuff he did in the movie. Right. I would say for sure. What do you think about the fight scene, Lisa? Like, what was this engaging for you at all?
Yeah, no, I did like it.
You liked it? Okay.
Yeah, because I think it's like what you said. I think, he's a professional wrestler, so you want to see him use his physical skills. I mean, he was in shape, obviously. So
obviously.
So if they hadn't had him do some of the physical stuff, it would have been a waste.
Yeah, definitely.
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
so we find out that there's aliens. That's really the whole
spoiler.
Well, we put the spoiler warning at the front. Yeah, so it's aliens. Shocker.
They're running everything.
Can we talk about some of this alien technology?
Yeah,
that is in this movie. First, they have drones.
Yeah, the CGI on this drone. Kevin, do you remember the CGI on this drone at all, by chance?
Yeah. I thought my 7-year-old nephew did the editing. When you look back now and see him looking up at the drone, it looked like a junior college directed film. I mean, it really, the Carpenter. I mean, this is a guy who directed The Thing. You know, I mean, one of the best. What the hell was that? I mean, there was the budget. I had to take a look at the budget there. Did someone not give Carpenter some money that he needed? Because it was really chintzy. And even the way the aliens looked. Listen, I was around 87, 88. I was just getting out of high school. So I remember that era very well. And I just remember there being, even on TV, there was a TV series called V on at the time.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And they had much better effects on that. How did Carpenter come in under that in a major motion picture?
Well, actually, all of the aliens were played by one guy.
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I was saying there was so much less than it could have been. Yeah, definitely.
The effects. Yeah, I mean, it's just again, it's a campy, hokey. I guess you can call it a classic now but I always think of it as a classic, kind of in a B movie squad way.
Definitely.
Agreed. Totally agreed.
Yeah, I mean, but it predicted drones, kind of. Can we give it that? Maybe.
It predicted grunge music, so yes. I don't even think Soundgarden had an EP out at that point, so I don't know how he predicted Alice in Chains, but
okay. So you're saying Alice in Chains used this movie as their starting point? That would have been great. Oh my god!
Think so. They should have built the character from Seattle.
Yeah, I was gonna say Eddie Vedder he decided, hey, what if I untuck it and then unbutton that shirt?
I can honestly say I never tucked in a flannel shirt in my life.
Yeah.
I just didn't.
So maybe this is why Roddy didn't get big in movies. He was too tucked in with the flannel. Oh,
I think you might be. I think you might be right.
Now, so there's drones, and then let's get into this is a major plot point in the movie. There's Apple Watches that are basically Apple Watches with Star Trek beaming technology inside of them.
Yes,
they can teleport in a hole in the ground. Why you need to create a hole when you're teleporting? No idea. But they teleport them to the alien home base and get out of the jam while Roddy Piper is shooting a machine gun one-handed into like 100 cops. What did you guys think about this random? It's almost like a beam me up Roddy situation here.
Well, it's a beam, but it's a trap door. I was super confused.
I don't get it.
I think that was just when it malfunctioned. It said your watch is not working.
That makes more sense.
Come here to fix it. Yeah.
Okay.
Take it to the Genius Bar.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how you get out of all plot holes. Oh wait, like the technology malfunctions. Like plot holes solved. Like, that was something. And then I guess I mean. The best thing about this movie is that the scientists are the first ones to get it right. The scientists are the first ones to figure out, hey, these aliens are here.
Yeah.
Right.
And we're scientists. Apparently we have some sort of means, but we're hiding it, right? Because the aliens are all around us. Let's make sunglasses. Where does the thought process come in for sunglasses? Like, why not glasses instead of sunglasses? Like, Roddy Piper is like, he's like a 6'1" dude or whatever. He's got like a pretty, I guess maybe average size face or big face. These glasses are ginormous. Like, it's like so obvious.
Yeah, they're built to fit any frame of face. Like every possible
like
frame
Andre
of
the
face.
Giant size.
Yeah,
like faces for these glasses.
Well, and of course everyone's walking around. I mean, first clue for these aliens is, are you in a department store at the middle of the day wearing sunglasses inside the store?
Yeah, let's use our Apple Watch to call the cops on you.
Right.
Basically. And then I guess they get contacts. So they upgrade. That's nice.
Yeah.
You know, they get a nice alien detecting contacts.
I like that they had like with everything in technology, they had to start up in a larger apparatus, and then they moved to
that was the beta.
Yeah.
And then they went to their version 1.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, man. And then I guess the last thing of technology is we'll go right to the end of the movie, I guess. But they then go to the aliens with their really smart plan of having one television station with all of their signal for the Earth. Not a great move. Then they had some sort of beaming technology. Aliens have Apple Watches that teleport you, and they're still using like tapes in this TV station. I don't get it. Like the aliens come to Earth, they're like, we're really good at watches, but like that's it. Like we need to then use the alien or the Earth technology to
again,
master our plan.
the messages I think in that movie they were ahead of the curve in certain things, like you said, like with technology and sending messages and stuff, because I didn't really hear about subliminal messages in commercials there was always in my day there would be on Led Zeppelin records or something and you play them backwards, or Iron Maiden or Ozzy records like on Blizzard of Oz. You play it backwards and you hear, and they even had council meetings about if there was satanic messages in heavy metal records back in the early 80s. I think it was Al Gore's wife, Tipper Gore, who was leading the charge on that Twisted Sister having subliminal messages on their album. And it was nonsense. I mean, I was a teenager then. I knew it was nonsense then, but it was interesting that then Carpenter put that to film about subliminal messages of, do this, do that, obey and stuff like that. That's really what started that. In my opinion, I didn't really see too many. There was a couple of movies before that. There was a movie called Logan's Run, about kind of the future or having to be a certain way or be extinguished, so to speak. It was just a different take on extinguishing mankind or certain people from mankind to get the planet to go one way in some sort of and now it's a lot of people think it's going that way now with Trump, but. It's an interesting thing. I'll give it that much. As far as message, they were ahead of their time.
Oh yeah. I think that's where the movie succeeds the most. Yeah, by far.
You could easily take this movie. For as much as I kind of bitch about remakes, you could easily remake this today and not have to change much, and it's still really.
All you gotta do is change the CGI for the drone. I mean, you've already
and
solved a lot of problems.
how funny would that be if they got The Rock to do the lead?
That'd be
shit!
Great.
Right.
Wow. Well, we have a segment later about sequels. I think you've already crushed it.
I think you've got Now, this reminded me. You're talking about these subliminal messages. I was looking up. Do you remember the Max Headroom hack? Have you ever heard about that?
No.
So back in like '84, there's a thing called Max Headroom. I think it was some MTV thing.
It was a character from MTV that wound up getting its own show. It wasn't very. It was short-lived. It wasn't I was in high school when this was going on, so TV was my life next to like other things. It was a short-lived thing. Max Headroom. It was a kind of a blip on the radar screen in '80s pop culture.
Yeah, well, at one point, I remember seeing this on some random YouTube video, but someone apparently hijacked a television signal, I guess in Chicago or something, and they had like the Max Headroom like mask, and they were wearing it, and like for 90 seconds they jacked up some TV thing. I was trying to look, I didn't know if this happened before or after. It actually happened in the same year in '87.
Oh, okay.
Which I thought was kind of interesting. I didn't know because I when I first saw the main guy kind of pop up when he's entering the feed in the first half. I just put, Max Headroom's really let himself go. But I thought maybe this happened later. No, it happened the same year. So,
that's crazy. And I guess we haven't really talked about the Resistance much because they all get exterminated pretty fast.
Right.
But I guess we get toward the end, our heroes, Frank, and after they've, made up after their fight. And what I did like about in the movie is that they're like limping, like they all go to like a hotel to like sleep because their fight was so epic. I did appreciate that little subtle like move. Like normally in a movie, like you don't like so they fight and they're still jumping and they're going out of a plane and like, jumping between cars and no one ever like stops and goes, ow, like that hurt. Like no one does that. By the way,
what was the name of the actress with those super steel blue eyes? What was the name of that actress?
Her name's Meg Foster.
I saw her. Like I said, I'm getting old. I just turned 50 recently. She looked about, 80. I think she was 80. She's in the new Jeepers Creepers movie that just came out. She plays one of the grandmothers or something. As soon as I saw those eyes, I was like, because you guys saw the movie, you seen that woman's eyes.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
I never, and those are legit eyes. It wasn't contact.
Yeah, Lisa thought they were fake. Lisa thought they were contacts.
Meg Foster has
Crazy.
like super steel blue eyes. I've never seen eyes like that.
Yeah, if you were watching the movie, you could be like, she's the alien. Like these eyes are impossible.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I saw her at a convention one time, and it's legit. But I saw her in this movie, and she looked so old. And I said to my friend I was watching, I go, "That's the woman from They Live." No, he's like, "That's not the woman." I'm like, "That's a elderly woman." I'm like, "She was 40 and They Live, so she's got to be 70, 80 now." And I looked it up, and it was Meg Foster.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
And by the way, don't see that. The new Jeepers Creepers.
I was gonna say not future episode.
Actually, so she's the main witch in Rob Zombie's The Lords of Salem.
Oh, is she really?
Yeah,
oh, okay.
yeah. She's in that, which is it's an interesting movie if you haven't checked that one out.
Yeah, never saw that, but that was a good 10 years ago, right? Maybe longer, right?
Actually, that was I think 5 or 6.
Oh wow.
Oh okay.
Yeah.
I
know I'm getting on my years.
It just came out. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So we'll get to let's talk about the ending real quick before we get to our final segments for the show. Yeah. So Piper basically goes, and you mentioned it. They have this one satellite feed. He shoots it one-handed assault rifle or shotgun.
Well, no, you're missing the plot. The old.
Oh, well, excuse me.
Old Blue Eyes plot twist here. I'm gonna call her Old Blue Eyes.
Old Blue Eyes.
So he's in love with Old Blue Eyes. He's like during the.
You always fall for the girl.
What a chemistry they had. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. You always fall for the girl that bashes you over the head with a wine bottle.
He literally fell for the girl. He fell off an entire building like for her. Yeah, not great. No. This is like. Two people who are just like, I guess we'll both collect checks together. That is the level of interaction and chemistry that's happening. Basically, he's like, I love this chick. She's part of the resistance. I kidnapped her, but apparently she still likes me, so that's nice.
I want to see her in my flannel in the morning.
Yep.
Yeah.
Morning flannel, the sexiest kind of outfit you could go with for sure. And then so he's like, oh, she works at the TV station. This is perfect. We got an in. He's like, I gotta find her. They find her. She kills Keith David, which was terrible because plot twist, she is collaborating with the alien. So she's not an alien. He checked her out. He's like, ooh, okay, I can think you're hot because you're not an alien. Check. He did that earlier in the movie. He's like, I got that covered. And then plot twist, he falls for her, and then she's saying, no, the aliens are cool. Don't worry about it. They have basically a Thor Ragnarok level teleportation device to other planets. This is amazing. I love them. And then she ends up getting murdered, and Roddy Piper shoots the signal again. Terrible plan by the aliens. They control the world, but they have one satellite or one tower to broadcast. And at the end, they're in the helicopter trying to shoot him to stop it. And the end of it, so he dies, and in the end, he's just flicking them off. Oh, yeah, I loved it. I loved it so much.
That was him and John Carpenter and everyone watching the movie at home.
Yeah, I was like, fuck. Yeah, he was
we
like,
have your money.
He's like, oh, you wanted this movie
Exactly.
back? You wanted your
That's
money
exactly
back?
how I felt.
Fuck you. And he just like throws it out.
Because these ending scenes of everyone waking up are absurd. With the very last one just being, here's a sex scene, and she looks down and she's just banging an alien, and then cut to credits. Of all of the montage scenes to pick from, that's what we're gonna just roll it. We got it. Good job, everyone. High five all around.
Yeah, really. Lisa, what you think about the end sequence?
Yeah. At
that point,
I can't even.
Like you're just like, it's over. Positive, negative. It was the same movie, so like it didn't really hurt itself in your eyes, right? With that scene, because you were already kind of checked out. Okay.
It was fine.
It was fine. Oh wow. Okay.
I mean, it is what it is. I was surprised that there hadn't been any nudity earlier, so he had to sneak it in somewhere.
Yeah, this is like one of the only movies, like horror movies. Usually they're like, oh yeah, let's like throw in some like nudity. So like, we keep interest. I'm sure, Kevin, when you were watching those as a teenager, you appreciated those scenes in the movies for sure. Like we all did watching them too early. I know Mitch and I were probably similar, but you're just like, okay, that's interesting. I'm interested. This is the exact opposite. This is like the whole 99.9% of the movie show nudity, credits. Like it's the exact opposite. Maybe it was just it was kind of just an FU, like, all right, I gave this to you, like studio or whoever.
I like to think we had a lot of Piper without a shirt on. And so some exec just came in and was just like, hey, let's do something for the fellas. Just threw it on at the end. You couldn't tell me that didn't happen. That's
what I'm saying. I think it was thrown as kind of like, all right, I'll
anything else y'all want to say about this film in general before we get into our final questions / segments?
I think we covered it.
All right. Well, with that said, then I just want to ask you all, what would you have done differently?
Son of a bitch, you left the bodies and you only moved the headstones! You only moved the headstones! Why? Why?
So I'm going to jump in on this one first because you've already kind of mentioned it. If I'm the aliens, I'm going to maybe have a redundant failover system. Yeah. So if I lose my feed from the main tower, maybe I have a backup if my whole survival is based on that.
Yeah, I mean, you run the world, but you can't afford 2 TV stations.
Right. Like there's a backup somewhere, like, you know. Lisa, what would you have done differently? You're anyone in this movie.
I don't know. I was trying to think of something, but
you're like, ooh, Roddy, take your shirt off more. Is that like that's the decision that you would have made?
No. I don't know. I mean, the big thing is put the sunglasses on, right? Like, just come on.
So you're Frank.
You're
Frank, and yeah, someone's like, please, hey, put the sunglasses on, open your eyes.
Or blue eyes, you know? He asked her too.
Yeah.
I feel like that would have been easier than shoving a guy out the window.
If a stranger offers you sunglasses, you take them.
Well, the stranger says sunglasses or eat a trash can, you're going sunglasses.
Well, if that's my only 2 options. But I don't know. There must have been some sort of like pink eye scare or something. I was like, I'm not touching your sunglasses. I don't know you.
There's a rampant pink eye situation in LA in 87.
It could be all the smog. Oh, that could be it. Who knows?
Yeah.
Although you think you want to protect your eyes from the smog, but you know, that's a different story.
Also, here's what I would do differently now that I think about it. If I was Roddy Piper and I figured this out, I wouldn't immediately out myself. Like when he's just staring at the guy at the newspaper stand and he's like, what are you looking at? And he just keeps staring at him all the way till he gets in his car. I'm like,
yeah, he has never once phased that anyone looks like weird with
Are
these.
you saying that Roddy Piper's portrayal of a character called Nada did not have any nuance? Is that what you're telling me, or subtlety? That's what you're telling me.
Yeah.
I am shocked by this.
Yeah. Nate, what are you doing differently?
So I just want to go out on the limb and say I'm not pro aliens taking over the earth. Okay. I'm just going to get that out of the way in advance. But
don't let that get on social media.
Yeah, exactly. But if the aliens are listening,
you'll be on the apology tour.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not pro extraterrestrials, but if I were to be collaborating with them, I would just have, maybe learn how to make a perimeter around a building. Okay. They go against the resistance and a line of people just murdering people with guns. Like this, just a straight massacre. But they go from a line from one direction, everyone escapes out the back. I mean, it's some pretty bad tactics. You would think the aliens have, beam me up Scotty watches. They'd be able to figure out, like, let's make a perimeter around.
Well, they can only beam away. They can't beam there. It's clearly one way.
It's Terminator? It's
clearly Terminator.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and then I guess my second thing would be if you're aliens and you look like you look and you have a signal that is like on TV stopping them. I mean, we really got deprived of more CGI for multiple drones. Just use the drones to carry the signal. Then it's everywhere. And then we could have seen more terrible CGI in this movie, but apparently they didn't have the money for it.
CGI drones are expensive. Okay.
Yeah, and I just kind of wanted to tack on to Kevin's point earlier is that I think the CGI for the drones was the same CGI done in Leprechaun 4 in space. I'm just throwing that out there. We'll have to have our intrepid listeners do some screenshots side by side. The studio
just already had access to the technology. Like, yeah, why buy a new one? We have this perfectly good CGI platform here. That
exactly. And by perfectly good, you mean terrible. But yes. Yeah,
it works fine. All right, Kevin, man, if you were going to do anything differently as any character in this movie,
other than not see the movie, I know you're chomping at the bit for that.
You killed my opening joke. I was going to say we were going to go and leave that and go see The Lost Boys again for the third time.
Oh, yeah,
which was out. You know, it was out during that time. The two hit movies out during that time were The Lost Boys and Coming to America with Eddie Murphy.
Oh yeah.
Was out that year. So there was a lot of good movies out in '87. But yeah, I mean, honestly, like first and foremost, and I wasn't kidding, was recast that role and maybe put Michael J. Fox and bring Doc in from Back to the Future.
Oh, that would be great.
Put them in that movie, make it a comedy.
You just made Mitch's life with that sentence. I'm not gonna lie.
That was solid.
Doc,
like Marty McFly and They Live. Can you imagine Michael J. Fox fighting Keith David? Put the glasses on.
Is this similar to our Leprechaun Mike Myers scenario?
Doc just puts the glasses on. Great Scott!
Great Scott.
Oh, the street preacher is Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Wow.
That would be awesome. That would be like just the team up, movie of Zemeckis and Carpenter.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, but leaving Piper in. Just, I don't know. Again, like my whole problem with that movie, just in general, and the premise was kind of the hokiness of it. John Carpenter's movies were never hokey. I wasn't accustomed to that. I mean, if you go back, forget Halloween, but even the only movie you can maybe compare it to where there was some comic relief was the Kurt Russell movie, Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah.
That had some comedic tones to it, but it was meant to be that way. It was a little slapsticky. But I thought They Live was going to be a little bit more serious, so I didn't really know how to take it. I remember leaving the theater disappointed, though, and I remember the people I was with were disappointed because that was not John Carpenter from what we remember. We didn't know what we just saw. But we were wrestling fans, so we were wrestling marks. So the attraction was really twofold. But Piper was really the first attraction. I probably wouldn't have saw that in theaters if Piper wasn't in it because I saw the trailer and I didn't like it. Again, miscasting, not enough story development. And I don't know. Piper wasn't. I don't know. It was kind of hard to get behind him as the hero of the film because you didn't know a lot about him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Again, you didn't even know what his name was. I didn't even know that was his name until you told me.
Yeah.
So
yeah. They don't mention the character name.
And I seen it 62 times. So I mean, but yeah, I mean the effects just. Well, that's the funny thing is everyone goes, that's a classic. And I remember when Piper died, everyone was doing this, homage to this was some, he should have been a big movie star. I'm like, okay, everybody calm down.
Yeah.
Did you live that era? I was around during that era. And that was not the tone. The tone was he sucked. Go back to wrestling. He was the CM Punk of acting, what CM Punk is to the UFC.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's really a solid point. Yeah.
Really what it was. I mean, my God, it was, believe me, that was the tone. Everyone's like, dude, better go back to, I hope he didn't lose Vince McMahon's number. Like that was going out of the theater. I am telling you what people were saying going out of that theater. People, no one left there. Like people clap at the end of the movie. Even in the old days, people clap. Oh, yay. Oh, that was great. Go to a diner, talk about it. Everyone just wanted to go home and forget about it. You know, so I don't know. There was a lot of things. The only way to fix that film to me is a remake and Carpenter doing it, but I don't think he would do it because I think there's this thing to Piper's memory and that was his film. So I don't think Carpenter would ever even give a blessing for a remake on that. It could be easily done and done so much better. And I don't know why not, but I have a feeling they're not going to do it. You know, so fixing the current film, there was just a lot to fix. The premise of it, the ending, the development of the characters, which just wasn't there, a faux romantic angle between Piper and Blue Eyes that never even came to fruition. It was more in Piper's head than it was actual in reality.
Right.
And the glasses thing, the underground movement. Like I said, there's a lot of premise in that movie that could be tremendous today.
Yeah.
You know, like with the underground movement and fighting the aliens, it could be a series on TV. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
But there's no fixing it to me. I mean, we could play, you know, if we were directing it, I get that. That's what the premise of this is. But to me, it's just kind of smash it and rebuild it again. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah, fair enough.
Well, that segues perfectly into our next segment.
Yeah, I mean, if we were making the sequel, what would that be?
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
Baby, these days, you gotta have a sequel.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kevin, really, it's for you. It's just redo it.
So
get it right get it better and right.
Yeah,
the next time.
I mean, like because it would be very easy for me to, like I said, pay this homage to Roddy Piper. He's one of the greatest talkers in wrestling, and he was a hero to me. But I think if I'm making a fair assessment of it and analysis, that's really how I feel. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's like the most realist way I could be about that.
So if you were making the remake, though, who would right today? Say you got a bunch of money and you can make the remake. Who would you think about putting in this movie? Or
Dwayne Johnson, no doubt about it.
Okay,
I mean,
so
The Rock, not because he's a wrestler, but because I think he's proven himself that he could be the hero, the anti-hero. He draws people to film. A lot of people would see it because he's in it. So a lot of people maybe didn't see that or saw it and were like, I didn't really care for this. Oh, The Rock is in it. This should be, and those comedic moments will come off comedic because Rock knows how to do that.
Yeah.
As far as his counterpart, the Keith David role, could be anybody really. I mean, you can get anybody. You can have your pick. Doesn't necessarily have to be an African American guy. It could be anybody. It could be a Latin guy. It could be whoever. It should be an older man, maybe like an older actor. Not as old as like a Tommy Lee Jones, but someone who's notable. You know what I mean?
Like a Josh Brolin.
Almost like a Men in Black thing to a degree, but not really. You know what I mean? Yeah. Almost like a team up of two strong characters. I was going to say Will Smith, but I changed my mind on that. I want to see Will Smith.
And not Kevin Hart anymore. I love Kevin Hart. Maybe we give that duo a break for a little bit.
Kevin Hart saturation is happening.
Yeah, no, but like I said, and then have Carpenter maybe give his blessing. He was just too, Carpenter's in his mid-70s now. Maybe get someone else with his blessing to redo it. Maybe he can write the script. Can you imagine with the effects and CGI and the effects they can do now with real drones and stuff? They don't have to superimpose anything. There's just a lot of different, and like I said, the movement of underground people fighting the resistance against the aliens. It could be a sick movie. You know what I mean? They can make a real sick, great freaking classic film now if it was done properly. Effects, forget about it. 30 years, we've come so far in that,
Yeah, totally agree. Lisa, what would you have done for a sequel?
I think they already did it. I think it was Mars Attacks.
Mars Attacks?
Yeah. So
sure.
no, I think the sequel would be, the aliens are outed, so now it's this epic battle.
So now they're just coming.
Yeah. Now they're like, okay, we're outed. Let's fight it out.
So maybe the They Live aliens were like the opening wave for the Mars Attacks.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nate, where are you going with this?
I like the Mars Attacks cinematic universe. I like that quite a bit. Shit, I mean, I was gonna do a remake, but The Rock is way better than mine.
Yeah, that's
damn. I mean, I think if you made it in current times and you just updated it, like Kevin was saying, I mean, this could be a very good movie.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. So I guess maybe if I was gonna pick a director, I would almost get Lee Wanell from Saw, and who just get Upgrade with the head, which has awesome action. I'd almost get him to do it. Get like a fresh face, like a fresh young horror-y face, to give it kind of like the sci-fi horror angle, like that Carpenter tried to do.
Yeah,
he had done horror movies, he had done sci-fi movies. right? And then you put them together, and it was not the best.
You wouldn't want to put Abrams or
No, I want to get someone like a little like scrappier.
Okay.
I don't want someone like totally polished. I want it to be a little grungier. Like I want the flannel to maybe be back, make an appearance in there. I want to keep it that level.
Gotcha.
So, and a lower budget. Like don't make it like crazy CGI the whole way, but like make it practical stuff.
Yeah. I think for me, I a true sequel. And again, I agree. I think this could be a whole lot better movie than what we got. But given that this is what we got, I would say the next step, what about people who don't live with technology? What about the Amish, Nate? How do the aliens deal with that?
How do the aliens? Oh, so you're saying the Amish?
The Amish are our last line of defense.
Have never had the
sequel.
signal to
Yeah. So how would they'd see it? They're woken, if you will.
So what is it called? They churn? Is that the name of your? Is that the name of your sequel?
Churn. Yes. It doesn't matter what I had. That was already better. So, and that'll bring us to our final segment.
Final cut.
Nate, start us off. You're gonna give us a rating out of 10, whatever scale you want to use.
Yeah. So again, I think I don't want to belabor the point. Execution was not the best, but some of the lines were pretty classic, although cheesy and not delivered well. But the lines themselves still pretty iconic to this day. So I got to give it credit for that.
Yeah.
The premise is and was spectacular, and that's going to probably be the majority of my rating. So I'm going to give it 6 out of 10 terrible drones.
Nice.
It's enjoyable in like a way that it's bad, but it's interesting. And I'll probably make other people watch it with me just to see how ridiculous it is.
Yeah.
And that bumps it up for me. Whereas if I was grading it strictly on like how good was this movie, it would be lower for sure.
Sure. I'm on a different flip of that. I'm going to give it 6 out of 10 mullets. And really, I'm voting with my head because my heart wants to give it more.
You're voting with your head mullet.
My head mullet, not my heart mullet.
Okay.
Exactly. I've just grown up seeing this movie. I love it. I know it's cheesy. It's bad acting, but we've talked about it. I love these terrible B movies for what they are. But yeah, I mean, if I am rationally thinking about it,
it's like a 3 or 4 rationally.
I mean, it's rough. The themes really are what saves it. If it didn't have all the obey stuff, if it didn't have all this overarching, invading sort of force that's already got in. Yeah, the consumerism. This movie would be a straight up turd. That's a lot of what saves it. But I do also like some of the shockiness of it as well. Kevin, man, so out of 10, and then we make up some random whatever out of it. So what would you give this movie?
-1. I would get on a scale of 1 to 10. I would probably give it a 6.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
okay.
That seems high for how you were describing it. Any particular reason?
I feel bad. Roddy Piper died.
You went with your heart. No, you went with your heart mullet.
What percentage of the 6 points is based on that, and what percentage is based on the movie?
No, I'd probably give it. I'll give it a 5. I'll give it a 5.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's cool. Okay, Lisa, what do you give this? Round us out here.
See, I think this movie has the advantage that we've watched some truly, truly terrible movies on this podcast. So once you start the comparisons, it's not so bad.
Yeah. Compared to Thanksgiving, where does this?
Yeah, compared to Jack Frost,
much better.
Jack Frost, Leprechaun.
Yeah. We have a solid basement for sure.
Oh God.
Yeah. Please check those episodes out in our back catalog.
Yeah, really.
I think you'll get
I think we lost friends during those episodes. I'm pretty sure.
I think you did.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. So I think I'd give it. I think I'd also give it 6 out of 10.
Wow, this
back
is
alley
shockingly
fights.
high.
I mean, the premise is good. There's some good parts to it. It's not the best, and considering it's John Carpenter, everyone expected a lot more, but it's not bad either.
Yeah.
It doesn't overstay its welcome. I'll at least give it that. It is
taking off his shirt really resonated. I can't belabor this point.
You know what actually did it more was I really like, it's Keith David, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to get his name wrong. Yeah, I've always liked him. I think he's great.
That bumps it up. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this week's episode. Nate, tell them where they can find us.
Yeah, so you can find us at our website at TexasPodcastMassacre.com. You can tweet us at TXPodMassacre. Let us know what you think about They Live. I think this is a beloved cult classic that people will not be pleased we were messing with. And that's fine.
It's fine.
No worries.
Come at us, bro.
Yeah, come at us. Exactly. I got to find the GIF where he dies and flicks everybody off. And I'm going to post that right away. You can find us on all your podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and all your other podcast platforms.
Yeah, and once again, we want to thank Kevin for showing up. Again, please check out the Don, Tony, and Kevin Castle show. You can catch it out on Spreaker. That's usually where I get it. I think it's on all the normal iTunes stuff. And I definitely, if you have the opportunity, Monday nights, go on Mixler. You can go live. It's really cool. I kind of try to jump in there every now and then. It's got a cool little chat feature. So you're listening to the show and you're able to chat with other fans of the show, wrestling fans. It's a whole group of people. It's a really cool experience. And definitely check out their Patreon. Kevin, man, thanks so much for joining us for this one.
Oh, thank you guys for having me on. It was fun.
Yeah, let us know next time you ever want to jump back on. You're always welcome at the studio.
Preferably a movie that you enjoyed. How about that?
Let me know when you guys review the Ghoulies 5, and I'll come right back on.
We got you. We'll get you marked on the calendar.
Or like Critters 4, anything like beyond 8, I'm always down for.
Perfect. You're gonna come to regret that.
Puppet Master 28 or whatever they're on now.
If you really want to torture somebody, let's have Don Tony on. All of a sudden he'll have connection problems.
I can't wait. All right, well, thank you so much, and thank you all for tuning in. From all of us here at Texas Podcast Massacre, just keep telling yourself it's only a movie. Good night.